Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Great Day Houston Medical Monday. Okay, so how many times have you said one more minute when trying to get something done? It doesn't seem like a lot of time, but you can get some important things done in 60 seconds. Our first guest says for many diabetics in particular, that's enough time to save a foot, maybe even a life. Dr. Ava Washko is with Modern Advanced Foot Care. She's sharing the simple daily foot check that could help diabetics catch problems early. And Robert Green dealt with an open diabetic foot wound for years, and at one point he was told he'd probably have to just live with it. Dr. Washko was part of the team that finally got it resolved. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let's just start with one thing that a lot of people take for granted. You are wearing not just regular shoes, but boots this morning. Let's see those boots.
I have got my boots on for the first time in about 5 years.
Wow.
Of being able to wear my boots.
Yeah. That's because you've had diabetes for about 12 years now.
Right.
So you had the neuropathy and other things, but there was also wounds you had to take into account.
That's correct. So I've had this open wound on the bottom of my foot for a little over 4.5 years. It would ebb and flow, it would get larger, it'd get smaller, but it never would completely close. And I've tried several different doctors and different treatment plans, and I finally ended up with Dr. Washko at Modern Advanced Foot Care, and she got it healed for me in a very short amount of time.
Dr. Washko, it's so interesting how common this is. I was just talking to a friend of mine this weekend, and she said that she has plantar fasciitis, which it can be very painful. And she goes, like, I was walking around with it for so long, thinking, she was using a cane, she was using compression socks. And she finally went to the podiatrist, and he goes, well, I can tell you why you probably had some pain as well. He goes, you have a hole in your foot. She had no idea. And then when they tested, guess what they found? She had all sepsis, all kinds of things there that could have caused some much bigger problems. When I said this one check could save a life, I wasn't saying that like overly speaking that, was I?
No. Like the biggest thing is at the end of every day, make sure you check the bottoms of your feet, make sure there's no cuts, scrapes, abrasion, puncture wounds, foreign bodies that might have entered through the bottom of the foot that we can't feel.
Yeah, when you say cut, scrapes, people think, okay, we get those all the time, that's no big deal, but when you're diabetic,
it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, all right, and then of course with diabetic neuropathy, it can make things, you have that made your foot
Right,
feel
so
numb.
I do not feel my feet. So my journey started when I was on an exercise program and I got a blister on my foot that I didn't know was there, and it got infected. And over the course of those 4.5 years, I've lost a couple of toes due to infection, and I've been on aggressive antibiotic treatments intravenously with PICC lines, and for 6 weeks, 8 weeks at a time, and it would help, but I was always worried about getting an infection and ended up losing my foot.
Yeah, diabetes, in fact, is the number one reason for a lot of health ailments, heart disease, but one of them is amputations.
Huge.
Right. What is happening in the foot or in parts of our body with diabetes that makes it much more problematic when we get a scrape or a cut?
Well, whenever we have a higher blood sugars or hemoglobin A1C is off, just all around your immune system starts to tank. As well as then a lot of times we have poor circulation, we've got poor nutrition, so it's a kind of a combination of a lot of different things that kind of all collide at one time.
Yeah, when you say poor circulation, when you're getting oxygen to the body, that's what makes the body heal.
Correct.
And so if you're cutting off that oxygen, then you have those open wounds that no matter what you keep doing with it, they just sit around. All right, you had been to several doctors and you're just looking for an answer, and what had you been told?
Well, I mean, I've been told that, to keep doing what we're doing, that it's, we're making headway, and the months just clicked off, and after several years, I'm still in the same spot. Again, I've had multiple infections and lost a couple of toes out of the ordeal. But when I met Dr. Washko, I always just kind of tell the story. I met her on a Tuesday afternoon, and she goes, I don't like diabetics with holes in their feet. We're doing surgery on Friday.
Wow.
Immediately, she was aggressive in her treatment plan.
Yeah.
And that treatment plan was pretty progressive at times.
Yeah. All right. So when you say pretty progressive at times, what are we talking about?
Well, so, biggest thing is he's had it for so long, and there's lots of different, like I said, lots of things that go into play.
Yeah.
But his blood sugars were under control. He had good nutrition. We knew it was a bony structural issue that was going on. And I said, I can easily get you healed.
Yeah, what's great about Modern as well is that it's not just the podiatrist, but you have cardiovascular people, you have diabetic experts, you have everybody under one roof that will talk to each other, because sometimes it's complex, right? You have to have more than one expertise.
Yes, and like his primary care physician, Andrew Laxman, was the one that referred him to me, especially whenever his blood sugar was able to get under control.
Yeah.
And it made night and day difference.
One of the things that a lot of us do just naturally is that if we have a little problem, what we think is a little problem, we want to take care of it ourselves. At what point should you just forget it and see a podiatrist and let them decide how serious it is?
Well, anytime that you have neuropathy, anytime that there's any sort of concern, anytime that you've got a wound that's just not healing or a blister that's just not, looking right, it's just always better safe than sorry, because there could always be so many underlying issues. Because even whenever we were getting him prepped for surgery, we discovered that he had other issues that we needed to deal with. And thank goodness that he was in the right spot to, have these addressed.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I can't see the bottom of my foot. So just get a mirror and make sure you can look down there, because you can see what you can't feel.
Right, exactly. Or have someone at your house look at the bottoms of your feet, or sit in a chair, take a mirror, put it on the floor, lean up against the wall, and you can check out the bottoms of your feet that way.
Yeah, all right. There's initial steps in wound care. For some people, it's not as far as obviously the amputation part, but the initial steps, cleaning, proper dressing, blood sugar control, which is really important, and taking the pressure off the foot as well.
Right, offloading.
Okay. Robert, you obviously needed more. And again, having that open wound, obviously the longer that wound's open, maybe the more complex the treatment might be?
Yes, to where it could progress to be something more serious, to where next we're dealing with bone infections, we're dealing with gas gangrene, that's medical emergency, sepsis, and potential loss of limb or life.
Yeah, all right. How long before you started seeing some differences?
Almost immediately. Well, again, I met her on a Tuesday. Friday, we were going for surgery. So she did surgery. You could talk more to the medical procedure of floating the toes to take the pressure off of the base of my foot where my wound is. And then after that treatment, after that surgery, actually, we started a treatment with glaucoma eye drops, which is something that I researched at Progressive out of Sweden.
Wow.
On the wound. And then we did the hyperbaric chamber.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because we mentioned earlier how when you don't have a good source of oxygen, healing is problematic. And so you all have that available as well, the hyperbaric oxygen therapy.
Right. And with him, I wanted to kind of throw my entire toolbox at him, because having a wound for this long affects you not only physically and mentally, emotionally, psychologically, everything. And I was like, I'm ready to get him back to what life is. And so I just threw the whole gamut at him.
Yeah. Talk about that part, because it especially when something comes on slowly. We were talking before the show about diabetes in particular. The reason why so many people have diabetes and don't even know it, they're undiagnosed, is because it kind of sneaks up on you and you excuse things like, I'm more tired, I've gained a few pounds, well, I'm just getting older.
Going to the restroom a lot at night.
Yes.
Blood sugar's high. There's all kind of indicators.
Yeah, but you don't, unless you know that, you don't know why you're waking up all night. You think, okay, I'm just getting older, or maybe I shouldn't drink, something before I go to bed, all that type of stuff. How did it impact your life? And at one point before finding an answer, what was the worst for you?
I mean, over the course of the 4.5 years, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in medical treatment. Every day I had to wrap my foot and bandage my foot up. The medical supplies that I had to keep on hand, I got my own pharmacy at home because of this. But the simple things, taking a shower.
Yeah.
You can't take a shower with an open wound, so you had to put on a boot, a plastic boot basically, to keep water off the wound, because when you wash your body, your dirt and everything goes down to the floor and you're standing in it.
Yeah, and let's
so
face
there's
it,
a lot
we're
of things,
in Texas right now.
that changed my behavior at home.
Yeah.
My family had to deal with this. I couldn't swim. I couldn't go. Vacations were okay. We're at the beach, but I'm just going to sit up here under the canopy. That type of thing.
Yeah.
So.
And the other thing is, we're in Texas. You couldn't wear boots if you had bandages on your foot.
I couldn't wear my boots.
Yeah, but you got
That's
your boots
right.
on
So,
now. All right, let's end with your advice to somebody, because we also have a tendency to put up with stuff for a while before we actually take action.
Well, again, the main thing was getting my blood sugar under control. So if you're diabetic, that's number one. Your nutrition. And then check your feet.
Yeah.
And again, modern heart and vascular was a holistic stop for me. I have my primary care physician. They referred me to Dr. Washko here for my podiatry. I've got my cardiologist is there now, so it's like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, the convenience of having all the experts there working together on your behalf. You have a team working on your behalf.
Yes,
Dr.
ma'am.
Washko, thank you very much. Robert, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vigilance and preventive measures are best, but if you need intervention to save your feet, Modern Advanced Foot Care will stand by you and help you through the healing process. To make an appointment, you can call this number here, 832-644-8930. Again, that's 832-644-8930. or log on to modernadvancedfootcare.com. Also, to make things easier, they accept most major insurance, have several locations, including Humboldt, the Woodlands, and the Texas Medical Center. They also have staff who are fluent in Spanish.